It's time to take a TO with coaches Turner and O'Neill. Produced by Curtis Cross and engineered by DJ Chrissy.
It's time to take a TO with coaches Steve Turner and Casey O'Neill. Your new favorite podcast features conversation from the world of high school, college, and pro sports, along with other riveting content. Connect with us socially at turneroneillpodcast or visit www.turnerando'neill.com. Thanks to our partners, the Tamara Cusick Team and Dynamic DJ Entertainment. Take a TO with Coach Turner and O'Neill is produced by Curtis Cross and engineered by DJ Chrissy. Now, we welcome you to today's episode as we take a TO with coaches Turner and O'Neill. Here's your host, Curtis Cross.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. Take a TO with coaches Turner and O'Neill. Welcome to our first podcast. Gentlemen, how are you feeling?
Doing all right, man. Excited, anxious, ready to get this thing going.
Coach O'Neill.
I feel the same way. I had a little R&R at the beach last week, some good time to reflect, and ready to rock and roll.
Well, I thank you for making DJ Chrissy and myself a part of this. We are super excited, and we're going to jump right into some good stuff. I think over the course of all these podcasts, we're going to find out a lot about what it takes to put this together. I hope our listeners are going to get to know a lot about you guys. I hope we open some minds. I hope we learn some things as well. But I'm excited as well, so thank you for this opportunity. But I want to start off show one by saying happy birthday, DJ Chrissy. She is engineering behind the board for our first episode on her birthday. So happy birthday, DJ Chrissy.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
These guys didn't know it was her birthday. Casey O'Neill's like, what? It's your birthday? So thank you, Chrissy. She's been loyal to us for years and years. And once again, behind the board. Gentlemen, thank you for this. And let's jump into it. You guys, of course, coach at Gonzaga College High School, a wonderful institution for the young men who are part of your programs and part of the educational system down there. Coach O'Neill, you are the assistant AD and you coach lacrosse. Coach
Correct.
Turner, you're with the basketball program, those Purple Eagles down there. I want to find out, what is your why? Why are you there? Coach O'Neill, why are you there? What drives you every day to go see those young men as students, as athletes, your colleagues, and what brings you through the doors on I Street every day?
Well, as an alum myself, and I appreciate the question, and thanks for the intro, everybody. And again, happy birthday. Being an alum of the school, I kind of had an idea coming out of college that I wanted to help out and give back to the place that gave me so much. So that was my original why. Did I ever imagine being 42 years old and having an almost 20-year coaching career? No, I didn't think that. But at the beginning, my why was, it was win-driven. It was championships. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to teach these kids how to work hard and kind of give back to all the people that taught me those things. My why right now, quite frankly, has become, as I've mentioned a few times, mission-driven. I want to be the guy that these kids know cares for them. And I mentioned that when we kind of practiced a little bit with our podcast, that the why to me is about the kids. At the end of the day, Steve, we are, are past our prime a little bit in terms of playing days, but we do it for the kids. There's no other reason. And I always tell the parents there's two promises at the beginning of the year, all right? I'm going to do my best. That's it. I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to do it for the kids. It's not about me. It's not about the parents. It's about the kids.
So let me jump on that for a second. You said you want them to know they're cared for. And I did hear somewhere, and I imagine you subscribe to this, they don't care what you know until they know that you care.
Correct.
And you get the most out of your athletes by putting that forward first, it sounds like.
It does. And it also, when you give the trust is a big word, and listening. When you listen to your kids, and the more I coached in the years and I started working with the kids and I started listening to the things they were saying as they got older and seeing the way that they kind of balance their lives and everything, it's just, to me, simply just, it's about that care, it's about that listen, and it's about that trust.
Coach Turner, your why?
I mean, it falls along a lot of the same things. When you first take over for a legend, your why is to keep the job,
right?
and you feel like that comes through winning. So you're driven to win. You're driven to try to have success. Keep the program going in the direction that it was already going in. So for me, coming in originally, it definitely was win-driven. And once I was able to, what I feel like, establish my program away from what was Coach Meyer's program, it definitely became about the kids, because I was at that point of being able to be the guy that was recruiting directly to bring certain kids into the school and making sure that I wanted them to be able to match the mission of the school itself. You know, as being men for others, being service-driven is what our kids are doing down there. And then just like Casey said, man, showing them how much you care about them and allowing them to be empowered to understand that the program is theirs. It's not Coach Turner's program. It's not just Gonzaga's program. This is something that they are a part of. And for me, it's always just been about trying to make sure that those kids can take advantage of the opportunity to have a great education, play some great hoops, and take it further so they can go get their degree in college.
And real quick, just to jump on that, that takes time. That takes a lot of time. You know, in your first few years coaching, you want to do it your way. But to actually be able to look back, reflect, and then listen to even your assistant coaches, your seniors and things, you know, maybe some other coaches when you go to seminars or watch the way some of your peers are coaching and say, am I doing it that way or should I try that? And then just, you know, just being a little bit more humble with it. But it takes time.
Definitely takes time. And I think you hit the other key point too, Casey, was trust. You got to be able to trust everyone around you. You know, as I said, you know, when we did our practice podcast, I talked about not allowing those around me to do more, and you have to be able to empower everyone that's a part of your program. So having coaches, you know, being able to have a little more say, or certainly trusting what they're saying, and not always feeling like it's your way or the highway, allows the program to be what it needs to be. And then knowing that you're putting coaches in place to be great mentors to these young men, it's been the biggest key. And I feel like I've surrounded myself from top to bottom at the varsity level, down to JV and down to freshman, with other people who envision what I envision for the program. And number one, making sure that the kids' needs are met first.
So you mentioned taking it, not necessarily taking it away from, but establishing it as your program, not Coach Meyer's program. How long does that take? Like you step in, and Dick Myers did an excellent job down there. I imagine you learned a lot from him. But at what point was it, oh yeah, you replaced Dick Myers, and it became, this is Coach Turner's program? Is it a 2-year process? Is it a 5-year process? Have we gotten there yet? I imagine we have.
I think we definitely have gotten there. And I would say that number, I think it's different for everyone. Coach Myers won some championships down there. He sent a lot of kids on to some great universities and great institutions. And to get out of his shadows, it took me to get mine. And so for me, it was at least a 4-year process, and still ongoing. Once we got that first championship, it was almost like, all right, monkey off the back. Now those who were questioning whether Steve Turner was really the right guy to take this job kind of jump on board. They were the guys who were, you know, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, some days 2 feet out, smile on your face, and then behind your back, ready to see you go.
Not necessarily your biggest ally, right?
True. I mean, but I understood it. That Gonzaga's their baby. Like, it's a place that they went to. It's a place that they continue to pour into, and they want that program to be successful, and they want you to be successful for the kids. It really, at the end of the day, the village is all about raising the kids, and that comes from the coaches, to the faculty members, to the alumni, to the parents. We're all there to serve the kids. So at the end of the day, they want the program to be successful, so those kids have great opportunities. So I understood it, and then getting the first championship, I felt like, all right, we got everybody on board now.
But it's amazing when you say that, because if you agree with this or not, but sometimes the losses outweigh some of those big wins the longer you've been doing this, you know. And so, Curtis, the question, you know, how long does it take? I think it depends. You know, each program, each team, each group of parents has a different pulse, a different heartbeat. It's different. I know for me, going into this, I wanted core principles and mission statement for our program, and that was going to stay the same no matter how long I coached. But, you know, offensive plays change, inbounds plays change, your defensive schemes, you know, your press break, your rides, your clears in our two sports, which are very similar. Those things are going to change. But that's a good question. It's hard to tell how many years it's going to take, you know? It could go quicker, but
I think it's different. I think it's different for everyone. I mean, you hit a good key point there too, Casey. It's certain games too that matter more to folks than others.
So you mentioned two things, Coach Turner, that are fascinating to me. you said that you understood that some people were 1 foot in and 1 foot out. You can only understand that if you believe in your platform and and you're sticking true to that platform, because you're not willing to waver under the pressure of he lost his first 2 games, get this guy out of here. You had a vision, I imagine. And the second thing, and I just want to joke about that first that was the Verizon Center championship, right?
Correct.
Oh man, that was a great one.
2008? Right?
2008.
07, 08?
Yes. I remember where I was sitting. I remember watching that game, and we couldn't have been happier for you. But you have to believe in what your platform was to be able to weather some of those storms of alumni or parents or the administration or whoever might have been, wavering there.
Definitely. I mean, there were a lot of times I had to put blinders up, and I had to trust in myself, and I had to, know that I was working on building towards something special, and it wasn't going to be built in a day.
Right.
And I think the big key was being able to have administration and a support system around me that believed in my vision and trusted my vision and allowed me to grow into Steve Turner, not allow me to just sit in the shadows. And I think where it really hit for me is I'm gonna say, God rest his soul, was Father Novotny pulling my wife aside one day and telling her that, tell Steve to just do his thing. We believe in him. We trust in him. We know that it's going to take time for him to be able to get in the kids that he wants to have in this program to build the way he wants to. And once I got that pat on the back is what I'll call it, I knew then it was just blinders up, and I had to trust myself and trust the guys who were around me to help us build the program the way we wanted to.
And you've done that. 08 was not the last time you were able to taste that championship. So, I think you can take the blinders off, and I think most people are, if not all, are both feet in now, right?
I feel like that. I mean, there's always going to be some doubters against you at certain times, but I think for the most part, there's a lot of people who trust and see my vision and believe in my vision, so they allow me to just be who I am and continue to coach the guys the way that I do.
Now, I'm not as familiar with the lacrosse success. Of course, I've read about it. I think there were 7 in a row at one point. Is that correct?
It was.
Then there was a break. You mentioned to me before that in that season where you did not win a title, a lot of learning happened. Maybe some more hunger grew. And then we had 2 more in a row, 18 and then 19. Is that correct?
Yep.
It's a lot of championships. It's more than your Fairsies, but you're not out to be fair. What does that look like? What does that feel like? How do we get there? Because you came out of college. I imagine you came into Gonzaga. Your first year at Gonzaga, were you appointed the coach or?
No.
How did that happen?
So I came out of college in 2000. And in 2001, that spring, I had seen that a former teammate of mine was coaching there. So I joined him for 2 years, just helping out. And
you want to be around the sport.
Yeah, I just want to be around the sport. I want to be back at the school that gave me so much.
Right.
And look, all of us, you get in your 20s and all of a sudden something, sets in your brain like, I got to have a career. But you want to give back. You want to do something. And I wanted to be a part of competing. College ended and that's it. There's no pro lacrosse. At the time there was, but I wasn't good enough to do that. So I jumped in, and 7 years after being an assistant, I became the head coach. And I mentioned this in our sort of trial podcast practice before that the goal then was to beat DeMatha. That was it. That was the number one thing, the never give up. This is the team we want to beat. And when we won in 2010, never did we think we'd win 7 in a row. Okay.
Wow.
84 straight games in conference. But the only way we could do that is to really challenge ourselves and play some of the best teams, not only in the area, but in the country. So we did that. And we got to 2017 and we lost that championship. And that obviously, that hurt, but it gave us a chance to look back and reflect and say that, yes, we've done this 7 years in a row, but we've got to shine the inner flashlight. We've got to look deeper. What do we need to do to keep this consistent? And so we got back in 2018 and 2019, and I'll tell you that 2018 championship is probably just as high up there as the 2010 first one. And again, I really think it's important at times for coaches to spend a few minutes a day restoring themselves, looking at their program, looking at the body of work, shining a flashlight back on yourself, and to say, all right, what are my priorities this year? Because I mentioned it earlier in our tonight's podcast is that every team is a different heartbeat. It's a different pulse. It's a new year. You got to adapt. You got to adjust to these kids. The day and age we're in now, too, I mean, is social media driven. It's individual driven. So you're dealing with young men who, again, we're in a team sport, but it's a lot of things are about me. How do I get on the field? How do I get on the court? And so that balancing act and working with that. And I'm sure over the podcast we're going to talk about social media and how we handle that with our young men and our programs. But yes, there's been a lot of championships, but it didn't just happen. It took a lot of work and a lot of faith and a lot of trust.
You mentioned teams, and this will apply to both of you guys. You mentioned teams on a national level. You want to play some powerhouses. Years ago, you go to a public school or even some private schools, and you're playing everyone in your division, and then maybe Gonzaga plays. I guess Pilate and all those teams were there, but Gonzaga might go play Seneca Valley because they were great at the time in football, what have you. But you guys have, over the years, that has evolved into you're playing teams in California, in Texas. There are Christmas tournaments. There are holiday tournaments. There's going to be a Thanksgiving tournament. Steve, you could be in Hawaii in November, and then you could be in Arizona in December. Hoping to get back for New Year's Eve or maybe celebrate New Year's Eve out there. Has that evolved during your coaching tenure? Because I know, like I said, years ago, not that I played any sport at a high level, but I played, a sport in school. And I remember one of our games, because there weren't enough teams in the conference, we played Landon, for example. We lost that game 9-6. I do remember that part. But, how has that evolved? You get to create, I guess, a certain part of your schedule. The WCAC will deliver to you. These are the 11 teams you're going to play in division. But then you get to pick, someone in Santa Barbara, California. You get to pick someone in Michigan or, how has that evolved?
I think for me it was, getting an opportunity to be invited to a couple of nice events, and you're playing against some of the best teams in the country. And certainly we like to, in the WCAC, pat ourselves on the back as being the best basketball conference in the country.
I don't think you're the only ones who say that.
But I think, for us being able to be that, the other part of it that we always want to be able to do is play against the best national competition we can. And for me, I've kind of looked at it as a way of, let's test ourselves before we get into what matters the most. The biggest thing for us is to win the WCAC.
3 games.
It's 3 games.
The final 3 games.
It's 3 games.
That's
It comes down to one weekend for us in February. And as people get a little upset sometimes because I say we played 20 scrimmages during the regular season, and I only say that because everyone makes the playoffs. But
right.
the key is it's a chess match. You're playing 2 games against teams in your conference to kind of see how they are and what areas you could potentially exploit them when you get to the playoffs. But back to the national piece is I want to see how we measure up against everybody in the world. And the other part of that is, again, it goes back to being mission driven, is that I'd like to take the opportunity to go see other parts of the country and allow our kids to experience some things that maybe they may never get to experience in their life. I mean, for us going down to a tournament in Florida and taking a day to run a clinic for developmentally challenged adults who are trying to move back into society, that's more rewarding for me than any win that we get on the court.
You'll take the trophy.
Oh, definitely.
But that experience.
Definitely take the trophy, but the experience. These are things that our kids talk about. I mean, I can go back to Chris Light's freshman year. We were a depleted team. I think that whole season I had one game that I could count on my hand where we had every kid available to us to play minus injuries. And we go to New York, and on the way to New York, our bus breaks down in Baltimore. We get to New York after waiting hours for a bus to get us to our hotel, and the hotel is the worst hotel I've probably ever stayed in my life, to going into Harlem and having a great experience walking around the town, and our bus breaks down there.
Man.
And now we've got a truck across town in New York.
Kids will remember that for the rest of their lives.
And those kids on that team still call me and talk about that. Jordan Abdul-Rauf talks to me about that experience all the time. And it was amazing to be able to jump on a train and not really know where you're going, to having a guy playing the drums and people are dancing on the train. I mean, these are experiences that you can't even make them up. They just happen.
Right.
They happen just because that's what God wanted them to see. And those kids will remember that experience forever. And to get there and then be a team that only has like 5 or 6 guys that can really play, and darn near almost find a way to win it, and then be awarded like the team of the tournament because of our experience and the things that we had to go through, and then our kids understanding how to handle adversity, because that was definitely 2 days of the most adversity they may have ever had in their lives. So, I look at our national schedule as an opportunity for more than just the basketball.
Right. So I don't know what that looks like as much with lacrosse. I imagine you're in the similar situation where you get to schedule some things, certainly not in conference, not in D.C., not in Riverdale, not in Hyattsville, not in Silver Spring, but you're going places too. How does that happen? You get invites, coaches. You've done it long enough, so you know coaches throughout the country, and you can pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Mike, we've got an opening on April 17th. That weekend. It's Easter weekend, but what can you do?" Is that how it looks?
Exactly. At the beginning, it was me chasing the big guys. I was going after the teams from Baltimore, the teams from Philly. I wanted those games. I wanted those national games, and they'd say, "We can fit you in this weekend." And if it was
take what you can get,
yeah, I'll take because that's the whole point. I mean, we wanted to build this program to be at a national level. And so we got to go play those guys. We had to do it. And we took some lumps, some 1-2 goals, sometimes even more 10-goal losses early on. And now we're at a point where I can't fill out all the teams who are calling and asking to play games.
Right.
So we've kind of gotten to that point, and we don't take that for granted, trust me. And I don't take for granted us being able to travel because, Steve and I are very blessed to be able to coach where we coach and to have sort of the resources to be able to go to New York or to go to Philly or to go to California, wherever we go. I'll say this, in lacrosse, we played teams California, Arizona, Texas, Canada, Indiana, Florida, if I already said Florida, but all over. And we have our league schedule, and then we try to play right here in our backyard some of the best teams in the IAC, Georgetown Prep, Landon, Bullis, St. Stephen's, St. Albans. And then you go up into Baltimore, McDonough, Calvert Hall, Boys Latin. I mean, you could fill out your season right here in the DMV, but you want those kids to play other maybe Jesuit schools from up north or down south. We've gone to Florida the last 2 years, minus this year with the
right.
a little bit of a pandemic. But we've gone to a Jesuit event, and at the end of the tournament, I know our kids had an incredible time because they met other kids from Jesuit schools from around the country. We try to, we break bread together. We go to church together. We have some fun. We let the kids imitate the coaches together and just do all sorts of things. But that story, like you told, 2 years ago on our way to Florida, our plane was delayed. We got in really late, like 1, 2 in the morning late. But we had to practice. We had to be on the field the next morning at like 6 or 7. And one of my seniors this year wrote back and said that was one of the best practices because of, it wasn't quite that adversity that you had in New York, but it was the guys just getting up and you just do it and you get through it. So,
Casey, wouldn't you say, though, that those experiences, along with putting ourselves in position to have those challenging schedules, also have helped create our cultures?
Absolutely. 100%. I think that, again, I go back to being, knowing that we are blessed, that I'm blessed to be able to do the things and run the program the way I want to run the program. That's thanks to our athletic director, Joe Rada, and the leadership there. But, I mean, it's exactly the way that it's going to be. I remember once hearing that the season's not going to be that perfect. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. The kids are going to do things. But it's just beautiful to sometimes sit back and watch them kind of navigate through it.
I think the interesting thing that also happens is every year, because you have certain kids who are returning, it allows for them to lead us off the field, like in the weight room, in the classroom, and they're able to put their imprint on it to show the next generation of guys for us what it means to be a Purple Eagle,
right? Whether
it be on the basketball court or on the lacrosse field.
Yeah.
So I think our culture and the way the program's been built, it's ever growing because the characters are ever changing, but everything else remains the same, and those guys are able to lead in the way that we need them to, so that we can keep our programs, sustain them where they are in terms of being able to be national level programs.
And they learn that in different ways. One of the things I've noticed is, it's those trips that we take together with the guys, which can sometimes be a nightmare for us, making sure the boys are, room checks and making sure everything's going smooth, and do we have enough food for the guys and things that, is the hotel, can we check in and things like that. But to me, it's those times on the buses, those times on the planes, maybe if they're in the terminal or even after practice, just when they're like, just hanging out and being them. It's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's where they kind of learn that trust and that leadership.
Like we've been going to the Cancer Research Classic for a number of years now. I think we might be the team that's gone to the event the most. And one year they actually flew us. I mean, it's West Virginia, so
wow.
I mean, it's the flight is
Take me home.
45 minutes. But our kids finally started saying to me, "It's like, Coach, we don't want to fly there anymore. Can we take the bus?" I'm like, "You guys want to take the
They want that experience, right?
Yeah.
That is where they bond.
Right.
That is an area where they have an opportunity just to kind of let their hair down, see who's listening to what kind of music, checking out each other's social media platforms, talking to each other about things that are just going on for them in life. And I think those experiences are what helps build your program and keeps your team tight.
So what I did hear in that last segment there is that boys better have their passports ready. They're going to get some stamps in those passports, especially on the lacrosse side. You're going to Canada, right?
Well, no, Canada will come to us. It's tough to go up to Canada.
I'm sorry, I did not know we built the program there, where they're coming internationally to play against Coach Casey and the boys.
You know, lacrosse is the national sport of Canada. It's not hockey. I don't know if you knew that
I
or
did not know that. That is a trivia question right here on Take a TO with Turner and O'Neill. We do want to take a moment to thank our sponsors, of course, the Tamara Cusick team and Dynamic DJ Entertainment. They are friends, they are partners, they are sponsors of the program. We cannot do it without them, and we thank them immensely. I'll take a 30 seconds to say, oddly enough, where we're recording tonight in Kensington, Maryland, where we will continue to record, we found out last week that the Tamara Cusick team, who wants to sponsor us, Coach Casey did not know, they sold this house to us right here. So we're recording, and I think it's apropos. It kind of makes sense. I didn't know you when we bought this house, and here we are. So thanks to the Tamara Cusick team and Dynamic DJ Entertainment sponsors. Of course, if you'd like to enter into a partnership with us, you can go right to our website. That would be turneroneillpodcast.com. You can click I want to know about sponsorships. Click here for partnership opportunities. And we have several different levels. You could be a friend, you could be a donor, a sponsor, a partner, but we will get you involved if you'd like to be involved. So, gentlemen, we talked about that. I imagine there's a piece of work to take your program from wherever it was, good or bad, to where it is now. But is it not harder to take those additional last few miles of a step and maintain what it is that you're trying to maintain for your program? And I'm curious as to how that evolves as well. Because, Steve, you have a coaching style. Coach O'Neill, you have a coaching style. But, and I imagine you recruit based on what you need in the program. If you have a 5-star blue chip point guard who's a freshman who's going to get playing time right away, you might not recruit a ton of point guards for the next couple of years. Obviously, you want to build for the future. But if the recruiting class that you get is all guys under 6'2", your philosophy changes. I don't know how it applies over on the lacrosse side, but how tough is it to maintain what you want? And how do you have to change who Coach O'Neill is or who Steve Turner is to adapt to your guys? Do you have a system and they fit in it? Or are you finding yourself adapting to the talent you have to get the most out of those guys?
I find myself adapting to the talent. It's different for us on Asst, and that big piece that's big part of the puzzle is our academics. So we there's a select amount of group of kids that we have to be able to go after to understand that they've got to be able to handle the academic load. So we're not always going to get just the best basketball player. I think we get kids who are, I think the other part that's great for us is we get the multiple sport athlete. I think our partnership here is one because we have a lot of kids who in their first couple of years play both the sports, and so I try my best to adapt to who I have. I can't stick to just the style. Certainly, there's a lot of things that will stay the same, but there's certainly things that we're gonna, fine tune and change to fit who we are. You try to go back to that first championship team a lot of times. Right. Say, okay, what were those pieces to the puzzle there, and see if we can find some kids to fit into those pieces. But if you look at my 4 championships down on Asst, they're all different teams. Like I wouldn't say that any of those teams are mirror images of each other. I think there's certain pieces that are, but we found a way to make sure we were able to be great with who that group was. And even on the years when we didn't win a championship, we've tried to find our way to be great with who that group is. And so I think you're ever learning. The same way that we talk about with our kids, we want them to continue to grow and learn under our leadership we as coaches have to continue to grow and learn, and that's going out to clinics, that's speaking to other coaches, that's talking across sports sometimes. Like I said, our two sports have a lot of similarities, and it's fun to be able to walk into Casey's office and ask him about some of the things that I'm watching his teams do and how that might be able to fit into what we do, and him doing vice versa with me.
We're taking a TO with Turner and O'Neill right here on the podcast. We're glad that all of you are listening. We do invite your questions, your comments. You can submit content ideas to us. We'd love to hear from you. Go to turneroneillpodcast.com. There is a submit your idea tab. We'd love to hear from you. We can't promise we'll use all content, but if you send it to us, it's ours, and we can use it as we see fit, and we can edit as we need to. Coach, for you, how does that work? How do you adapt to the talent you have to get the most out of those guys and to hopefully get your name on that plaque or, get that trophy?
It's a great question, and it's one that it took a while for me to sort of accept that we were going to do it one way in the beginning, and we were going to have our principles, which will stay the same. This is what we stand for. I've always thought, because in lacrosse you can have tall guys, short guys, guys in the middle. Speed is a big part of our game, whether it's quickness laterally with your feet or just, that 40 speed or getting up and down. So you kind of got to have that speed, but it's the competitive level. If you have a competitive spirit, if we're playing ping pong, we're bowling, we're playing, I talked about, pre-workout, 15-minute warm-up basketball games, and you got that compete level, you're going to find some role in our program.
You told me that matters to you.
It matters so much because I just think when we are, under duress, or we're having a tough game, or we're dealing with adversity, or we're having a bad practice, and you lose your compete level, everything's going to fall apart. If you just say, oh, well, this is awful. But when through the tough times, if you just stick to that competitive level, it's going to break through. And I just love the kids knowing, right? You might not be the starter in our position at the midfield or attack or defense, but we're going to give you the opportunity to compete every single day in practice. And I've always kept our practices as complete and total competition so that everybody feels involved. So you might not be getting the runs that you get in the game, but in practice, some of the guys that are maybe lower in the depth chart are fired up for practice because they know they get the chance to compete. We're not sitting there and drawing X's and O's. We're just going to go and get after it. So it's that compete level to me.
And you need those guys who are a little bit lower on the depth chart to be able to step in when there's an ankle injury and really give you that 100%. And where you're not, from your top guy, I think I'm quoting you, Steve, from your top guy to your last guy off the bench, you need that competitive level. You need that effort. And we all know that you can't replace the effort. You'd rather have a guy who gives his all every day than a 6'10" guy who's quicker than anyone who loafs around at practice.
I would say in the 9 championships we've won the last decade, I would say probably in 7 of those championships that a major player, starter on defense or the attack position, has been out of that game. Sickness, injury, and we've had that guy that you just mentioned step up, have a role, be able to hold that trophy up. And it's
next man up, right?
Next man. And that's, I know Steve is great with that and teaching the kids that, but you got to have that mindset, because if you're just going to say, woe is me, and they're not putting me in, then you're not competing.
I'd like to piggyback on that is that, me and my staff have developed this thing with the number 4.
Okay.
It's kind of been the guy who's kind of been the unsung hero in a lot of ways. And I look at all 4 of our championships, that kid was special in so many ways. Was never our leading scorer, but always made the big key plays for us to be able to be successful. And so now that's the only jersey number that we give out. Like, everyone else can select their numbers that are available every year, but every year if there's a kid who embodies that toughness, those characteristics that we see in the kid who wears number 4, they get to wear that jersey, and we hand that jersey out to them. And so there's some years where the number 4 doesn't even get taken out of the drawer.
Right.
But in those championship years, we've always had a guy wearing number 4 that embodied a lot of things that Casey's just talked about. That toughness, that willing to compete, that willing to give up himself for whatever it takes for the team to be successful.
Why do I see the number 4 as a theme and a title of a book you're going to write, or at least a chapter in a book you're going to write? That sounds like that means a lot to you there.
It really does. It really does. And it's something that I didn't really pick up on it right away. One of my assistants kind of picked up on it And we just decided from here on out, number 4 is a jersey that has to be earned. It's not one that you can just ask for.
I like that. We're taking the TO with Turner and O'Neill, sponsored by the Tamara Cusick team and Dynamic DJ Entertainment, episode 1 right here. I'm so glad to have these gentlemen here with us. We're going to get into a couple of more things, guys. We're not done just yet. Don't forget, if you'd like to be a part of this program, if you'd like to be a friend, donor, sponsor, or partner, submit your idea or any of the above. Go right to our website, turneroneillpodcast.com. Of course, across social media platforms at Turner O'Neill Podcast. We'd love for you to join our social community. I'm going to tell you now, although we're going to bring these episodes to you on a weekly basis, if you go to our our social media pages, we update that very regularly, and you'll get some up-to-the-minute stuff. You might, in season, you might get some live looks at what the coaches are doing or how they prep, or I don't know where this is going to take us, but I think we want everyone to be a part of what we do, and we'd like to grow this community.
Absolutely.
This is not a podcast that we are broadcasting just for our local area. We're interested in branching out and making this something a little bit greater than the sports individually themselves. I think you guys have a lot to provide. While I think you do a lot of it on your field and on your court, I think that footprint is a bit bigger than the 94 by 50, or on our street, do we pay 84 by 50?
That's a good question. I think we're 84.
84 by 50 or 100 yards, 110. I don't know what we do in lacrosse.
It's about 110, yeah.
So I'm at least close. I don't want the listeners to kick me out of here because they don't think I know what I'm talking about. But thank you guys for being here today. Thank you, Chrissy, on your birthday for being behind the board as our engineer. Great content so far, gentlemen. My next question here. You don't do it alone. You don't do it alone. And by the way, I'm sorry, I want to rewind just a little bit. Your teams have looked vastly different over the years, Steve. And so from my own eyes, and I'm sure Coach O'Neill, your teams have looked different when you've won championships. I've seen teams of yours, and I'm thinking, well, I don't know, is this going to be an off year? They don't have very many seniors. And somehow on day 2 or 3, you're in the thick of things still. And I just want you to know, as you should know, I think that has to do with you getting the most out of your guys. How are you doing that when you lose 5 seniors in 1 year and you're relying on a sophomore to bring the ball up the court for you? How does that work? I mean, what are you doing to get the most out of those kids?
Getting them to believe in themselves, getting them to believe in their teammates, getting them to believe in that no one has to do this by themselves. We're going to be the sum of our parts, and it's the expectation that we have on ourselves as a program to be able to be great, and we want our guys to take pride in that, and that starts in the off season, starts in summer ball, it starts in the weight room, starts in when we get back to school in the fall and we're in workouts and open gyms, and then even when the season's over, right back at it again in the spring. So it's full year round, and we really have to lend on our kids who are returning to kind of help instill that demand of what we have as a program and how good we want to be into their teammates. And so we empower those guys to be leaders. And like you said, the faces are different every year. And so you can't sit back and rest on the laurels of what maybe the team just won a championship did. You've now got to look at every season as a new season. And I try my best to just pour myself into my guys, get them to know that I trust in them, I believe in them. That's why I brought them to our program and have them on that team to be able to be successful. You work with them in the off season. You try to find out what areas they have to grow as players, and you continue to build them in those areas where you know that you're going to need them to be during the season. A kid could go from being a guy who's just a distributor and a defensive player to the next year you're asking him to be the leading scorer on your team. So it's having those conversations, it's having some of those one-on-ones. It's allowing your assistant coaches to be able to talk to them and letting them know how much you need them to grow in certain aspects, and getting them to understand these are the things that they have to work on for us to be able to be successful as a team.
So for you, Coach O'Neill, I don't know if this is your story, but I imagine you've gone into a season, either this is the way the chips fell or there's an injury, and now you've got a freshman or a sophomore starting in goal. And this kid is shaking in his pads, or you can see it in their face, although they don't want you to know it. You've seen enough athletes. How do you handle that? Because now your team looks different. You've got a stud goalie or a stud defender, and there's an injury, unfortunately. And you've got to replace that hole in your roster. Again, you guys practice hard, so there's a sophomore who's waiting to come in for that injured senior. But how do you deal with that? How do you make this team a success? How do you get everyone to buy in? Because they know that Jake is the man. Right. He's coming. He was the all WCAC last year. He's looking for all Met this year, and they're looking at him. He's their leader. And now there's no Jake. Jake's going to be there. He's going to be on the sideline. Jake's going to carry a clipboard. Jake is going to be as pumped as he can possibly be. But Jake can't pick up that stick anymore this year. How do you fix that?
So I think it would be...
Or do you want to fix it? What happens there?
I would be doing a disservice if I didn't have the deep, long, good conversations leading up with the entire team and individuals going into a season. And so when you sit in a room with young men and you actually have their attention and you're telling them that every single one of you in this room matters, and you get them to believe in that mindset, those tough conversations, or if you're having a bad practice, bringing them in and saying, this is okay, this is the way it's meant to be, but slowly building the boys up, even through the off season, that they have the opportunity to control what they can control. And what you just mentioned is an uncontrollable thing. We cannot control someone getting injured.
Right.
So we can control what we do in the off season, what we put in our bodies, our sleep, how much time we're putting in the weight room. That's a big one to me. I mentioned that last time. You can control those things, and you can put yourself in an opportunity every single practice, if you're controlling it, to have the mindset to go in there. And then, somebody gets injured, you got to go to the seniors and the captains and say, this is what it is. We can't control that someone injured. Let's go. Pick them up. Let's go do it. So if I'm not having those meaningful conversations, and sometimes we don't even realize we have them. We're just going on a tangent in practice, or we're in the film room and we're going nuts. But again, it's all a build up to those moments. And so I love to preach control what you can control, and in uncontrollable moments, all right, well, it's my turn, so I'm gonna go get in it, get after it.
I would say the other piece that we probably haven't touched on yet in terms of this is also trusting in the growth of our kids from the lower level programs, our JV teams, our freshman teams. There are certain kids who've been blessed with an opportunity at times to come up and play for Casey and I as freshmen, but there's kids who are kind of in the waiting, that are playing freshman ball and JV ball, and then something like that does happen, an injury happens. You've got to trust that your coaches and the staffs below you are getting those guys prepared and ready to go in case something like that were to ever happen.
So thank you for the segue into what supports. Now, do you have freshmen on the lacrosse level in terms of a division?
Yeah, so we have 3 teams, the freshman,
Okay.
junior varsity, and the varsity.
Okay. So you guys pick your staff. You have to have folks who are going to pour into the mission you have and the platform you have. You don't want to run an XYZ offense, and on JV they're running a 1-2-3 offense, and they can't contribute if there's injury at the end of a season, next year, summer league, what have you. So you're picking that staff. You have to trust that staff. I know you've spoken with me before about having to empower those folks, and it takes a little bit to release those reins, but to know you've picked the right staff. You've chosen them. They didn't just come off the street. So they're going to embody your philosophy. They're going to embody your philosophy. They're going to come to your practices. They're going to want to be a fly on the wall. I mean, that's the coach you want, right? Who's going to be at every single practice. You practice at 3 or they practice at 3. JV's at 5 and varsity's at 7. You want them to stay until 8:45, 9 o'clock when you're done, because you want them to soak up that knowledge. How have you been able to, I guess increasingly, I assume, trust your staffs and know that, okay, if I have a meeting or if I'm sick one day, I can ask my JV coach to run this practice, and I know the kids are going to get what they need?
It's a great question, and it's one that took me a little bit of time. I'll be honest, I'm very blessed
tough, right?
to have I found kind of the right guys early, and they've been very loyal. I mean, I've had guys with me for 12, 13 years, and even the newer coaches are guys that are kind of up to speed with what we do. And I'll tell you what, Curtis, it is difficult at times to say, okay, let's go with your plan, but you have to do it, because if you don't take that time to focus and just kind of break down what you're thinking and shine that flashlight back on yourself and say, you know what, I got to trust these guys. I got to trust these coaches. So for me, I've just had such a loyal group that have stuck with me and stuck with what we're doing, that I've come to a point where I trust them completely to kind of go out there, and they get a little nervous in those meetings. Hey, we know you want to run this offense, but I got an idea, and let me run with it, and here's why. You always want to know what the why is, or what are we going to get out of this? And I just kind of run with it,
I think what I've learned to do over the years, and it wasn't this way in the beginning. I mean, I think in the beginning I was smart in that I hired a veteran coach on my first staff.
Yes.
And that was
Yes,
Bob Wagner, who'd done it for years, and had also been, even assistant coach under Coach Myers at a certain point. And for me, it was good to have that veteran that wasn't overbearing, wanted to see me grow into my own man. I mean, honestly, he after year 2, he took himself off my staff.
It was time to let you go, huh?
Yeah, it was kind of like the dad-son moment. Like, here you go, training wheels off, go roll. But
Did he give you the keys?
here you go. And I think he treated that way the whole time that he was there. And so for me, it was always be a good one that he was in the building. So if there was something I wasn't sure about, or I really had questions about, I could always get his ear. And he would never put it in a way of like, oh, this was mine. He allowed it to be Steve's, but he allowed me to just grow. He wanted me to be able to, crash and burn my own way.
Right.
And at the same time wanted me to be able to be successful. I mean, still to today, he's retired from Gonzaga. But you can catch him a lot of times sitting behind our bench at games.
He's right there.
You can pick up a phone and call him?
All day long. Like, I can't thank him, for all that he was able to do and help me in the start of my career on High Street. But I think, the other piece is just one of the things that I think I adapted was kind of the Coach K model. I'm not a graduate of Gonzaga. Like Casey went to Gonzaga. So I started bringing back a lot of guys who lived it. Like, I think their experiences can speak to our kids in a different way than I can. And I thought it was important to be able to have folks around them that went through some of the same things that they were going to be going through or might be going through in the moment. And also guys who love Gonzaga. Like, that was important to me as much as their knowledge as a coach. I think those are things that you can grow into by being able to be around people, being able to go and learn from others. But there were some other pieces I wanted to be a part of our program and our coaching staffs that I thought were more important into the livelihood of our kids and helping them become men. And so that's kind of how I started recruiting the guys in and accepting guys who reached back and said, hey, I want to come back home and be a part of this. And it's worked for us.
And that's, if I can interrupt real quick.
Please.
That's a testament to the program you run, because young men coming out of college would give anything to be on those sidelines, whether they're coaching freshmen or JV and varsity. I mean, it's a lot of work. Look, these assistant coaches, this isn't paying the bills, okay? A little stipend, or try to get some nice things for the guys, like the gear, gear the coaches
gear.
up. You got some coming your way soon.
Okay, I mean, a light bulb went off. That's all.
The gear is coming, but I think that the coaches do this because they love the game, they love the kids. And I have I have a lot of coaches.
I saw on the website. Like, I scrolled and scrolled.
Did you read some of the bios of these men?
It's the right carrot. I hit that right carrot about 6 times, and it kept going.
And it's a lot of guys come in and want to help out, and we've had these loyal, long-time coaches. And people ask, why? Do you argue a little bit? And of course. I mean, there's people have different opinions on things, but at the end of the day, the game, when you have the coaches there, it's my job not to mess up a timeout. My coaches will say I do all the time. But the game is the test, right? You've already prepared the kids. So in practice, if I can have 8 to 9 assistant coaches that can give the kid, it's about the kids, give the kids that attention, right? With 40 guys on the roster, and you have about 5 coaches, right? Yeah. It just gives the kids that attention, or they might notice things that I'm not noticing, or come over and be able to talk to a young man and help him out. It's all about that. It's all about giving these kids that opportunity to have just great, positive leaders around them who just want to be there. They just want to be there for the kids and the gear.
I think I think coming from those other 18 inches helped me understand what I wanted in an assistant coach, a go-getter. I don't want yes men. I wanted guys who could help me develop because they would question whether what I was thinking was right or wrong. Certainly trying to make sure we do it in the right moments. We've had those moments where it wasn't the right moment. We figured it out and we make it work. But I think coming from those other 18 inches as an assistant coach, there were a lot of things that I got to see preparing myself to be a head coach that also allowed me to go back and say, these are the characteristics, or these are the things that I wanted to have in the assistant coaches that I have for our staff on varsity, as well as the guys who are on the staff for the freshmen and JV teams.
So you have that staff, you have your players, the administration supports you, the athletic department supports you. There are other pieces in your program which help to make it what it is. I always joke with your mother. She's a great part of the boosters or the support staff there. How do you put that together? You need volunteers, you need this, and I'm telling you, on a game day, for those who don't know, if you go to a Gonzaga game, there are going to be 14 kids who are on the team. There are going to be 3 managers. Those kids are very important. They get that experience as well. There are going to be 4 support coaches, assistant coaches, and you. But there are going to be 20 other people in the building who are specifically there for game day operations. And I'm sure some of them are volunteer teachers or they're staying after. But some of the faces I've seen for years and years, and they're not on the Gonzaga website, but they're there to help. They believe in your program as well. How much does that mean to you guys? Because you have those support pieces. And as you know, I think, Steve, you said you still call the Washington Post, you still submit all of that. But there are pieces that support what happens. When I pay my money at the gate, there's a production that happens, and I don't see all the faces that make that happen.
Well, I'd say, and I'll probably let Casey speak to it because it's his partner in crime. Our athletic director, Joe Rader, is the best. We're blessed to work for a man who sees our vision, allows us to create our vision, and just supports us and doesn't really look to put his own stamp on it. Some of those support people you see, they're hired by him, from the person who takes money at the door to the people who are sitting, behind the scoreboard and putting the score up on the for the game. I mean, there's so many other pieces that happen for us, and then there's the pieces that we have to create ourselves, and a lot of that comes from our parent support, which we ask them immediately from day one. As much as we need them to support their kids in the stands, there's a lot of other activities we do which come from fundraising to just a concession stands. There's so many other things. As you said, my mom, she's a vital part of us, especially with travel, helping us set up airline tickets and being that liaison for me in our program to our parents has been huge for us.
Before you jump in, Coach O'Neill, I'd be remiss if I didn't say what I always say. Coach Turner's mother will sell me a T-shirt that I already bought from her 4 times, and I didn't even know that I owned that shirt. But she's so good at being back there and making sure that she involves everyone. I think that's invaluable. You already know that, Steve. She raised you, so you know how invaluable she is. So with lacrosse as well, you have a big coaching staff. There are a lot of pieces that go into this, and it's not. Let me make sure I say it's not you and 2 assistants and 1 kid carries all the water bottles. You're not just selling a couple of hot dogs here and there. This is a team and community wide thing that goes on game day.
On game day, somebody's running the substitution box, somebody's running the defensive calls, somebody's running the face-off calls, the
offensive calls. I have nightmares about that substitution box. You guys sub way too quick for me.
That coach's job is he doesn't watch the game. He is facing the opposite way to make sure that the numbers are correct coming in and out. Because if you get that offsides or you have too many men, it's a penalty, and then they're yelling at him. But there's so many different moving parts in the game. Now we have the shot clock in the last couple of years. So lacrosse plays with a shot clock. So you need that operator. You need the score, the time, the score. You need the officials. You need the penalty keeper. You need the cones to be lined up and to make sure the nets aren't snapped or frayed. Making sure that there's enough balls on the end line that, it's a fast game. So if ball goes out, you got to have one ready to go. Look, Steve touched on it in a production of a basketball game. And this isn't just, WCF. This is all over high school basketball games. I think it comes down to the love that people have seeing youth kids just competing. People love being around soccer games and hockey games and basketball games and wrestling. And you see a lot of parents and you see a lot of alums. You see a lot of people come back. It's just because there's that youthfulness to it. There's that fun that people have. And you live and die with your team and bleed those colors, the purple and white or whatever school you're with. So I think people naturally gravitate to just being around those gyms and, again, cleaning the floors or sweeping the field or cleaning the stands up, pushing the stands back, all the things that go into all these just mini productions of games. I mean, I can imagine at the college level, it's insane, all the people that are doing the production. It's insane. I've
been fortunate to be behind the mic for a bunch of Division I basketball, volleyball, soccer, lacrosse games, all of that. And in the WCAC, I've been behind the mic for tons of games. And when a game is over, there are still 30, 35 people in the building who are doing something. Someone's sweeping up, someone's folding tables, someone's wrapping audio cables, someone's pushing the stands back, someone's counting the gate. There are 4 guys in the parking lot making sure traffic goes the right way. There are, depending on how big the game is, there could be 50, 75 people who are working the game. And then another 800 fans who are coming in the game. So it does take a lot to put that together. You guys, some might think you guys have it easy, but there's so much more to it that in future podcasts we will get into. We're running close to an hour now. I have another question or two, and we can wrap this first baby up. But you guys, I know you're thankful for the staff you have and the support you have. But they don't do that unless they believe in your program and want to support your program. And I will reach in the Wayback Machine one more time to just graze over this, and this might have to go into the next podcast, but that relationship with the parents, you touched on it, Steve. You need them to support their young men, their sons, but you also need them to participate and volunteer. I have a feeling that with you coaches, it's not like pulling teeth with parents. I think parents want to be a part of it. But how do you make that happen? And I'm not necessarily talking about how do you assign this person to the hot dog maker and this person to the popcorn maker, but you have a schedule. I guess does Clarinda, does she organize who volunteers when? How does that happen?
It's generically turned into that.
Okay.
In the beginning, it wasn't that way. It was, I'm not gonna lie to you. In the beginning, I wanted to keep my family away from it.
Right.
And I felt like I needed to shield them from certain things that I knew as a coach I have to deal with as it pertains to parents and fans. And so that was something that was probably hard for me. And I guess I'm blessed that my mom's a pretty strong woman, and she kept probing me to say, like, look, you got to let some of this stuff go. You can't do it all by yourself.
Right.
And so I've been blessed that she has stepped in and kind of been the liaison in that. But it starts from the beginning of the year. And it's that first meeting that we have once teams are made, bringing all the parents in, talking about the program, being blessed that you have parents who are already in the program that can talk for you to the other parents.
They can coach up those parents.
Yeah, they can coach those other parents up to understand like that this isn't just game day, show up, cheer your son on and move on. This is kind of almost a 365 days a year type of deal, right, as long as you're in the 4 years of the program.
And to create the success you create, it needs to be that.
No doubt. I think a lot more that goes on for the program happens off the court for our success. The parents buying in, the parents being able to trust you with their kid as much as they say they do. It's not an easy thing to do for anybody. I have kids myself, so I get it. My kids have played in different programs. It's not always easy to just hand your child off and say, here, go mold him and shape him into the man he's going to become. And so it takes work. It takes communication. It takes dedication. And it takes sometimes going into some places with some tough conversations.
Tough, honest.
Sure.
Yeah, tough, honest conversations. And so, in the beginning, we try to just give them what is needed and how we can ask them to come in and help in certain areas. But I think you have to have an open door policy to a certain degree. I know we talked about before with, conversations after games, given 24 hours. But I think it's important to be able to, for those parents to know that you truly are bought into their kid as the child and the young man that he is versus just the athlete that he is.
So it's, again, next man up with parents as well.
No doubt.
You graduate 4 kids and their parents were heavily involved. You need some new parents.
Or those staying. I think the blessing is that we have on I Street, our parents come back.
Okay, all right.
Like we've had parents that are working in the concession stand the last few years whose sons have graduated from college already.
So they still have eligibility. They didn't use up all their eligibility.
Running the DC Classic.
The parents never lose their eligibility. So, I mean, I think that's a great example. Is our tournament, the DC Classic, is run by our Fathers Club.
All past fathers.
And so it's all past fathers. And it's not just fathers of basketball. It's fathers of the school. I mean, it's their big fundraiser that helps part of our endowment and the things that go on for us at I Street.
Community service.
The biggest thing is our community service and in
mission
the
trips,
service projects that we have. That's where all the funds go to that tournament. There's not a penny that goes to basketball for the DC Classic. All that goes to help serve the kids in our school, not just the basketball players.
Excellent. What about you, sir? You have some support pieces and all that?
Absolutely. Balance is the key. It's the key. But you have so many eager parents that want to help. And so we have a booster club, assignments for communications, assignments for a fundraiser party, assignments for post-game tailgates for the boys, like when we're on the road for food, assignments for helping with our spring trip, assignments for the media guide, helping get ads for our media guide, our production. So I cannot do this without the parents.
Chocolate bars. I did buy some down there on I Street. I bought some chocolate bars.
The gear, some of the gear, the fan gear that they work with.
Gear. Okay.
More gear. It keeps coming up. Working with the bookstore and, making sure all the things that we need to run this program and to help the young parent. Look, parents love it because they get to help the new freshmen, sophomore parents kind of grow into the program. We have opening banquets, maybe a mass, post-season banquets, and just things that we just cannot do without the parents. However, there is that balance. There's that balance of the, post-game conversations into, heated moments and things that are going on, and that communication. I told you last week that the 3 things are: we don't talk about playing time, play strategy, and other student athletes.
Exactly.
Those are off limits. And quite frankly, Steve and I know that we do have to have conversations with parents. We want to help them in the recruiting process. We want to talk to them maybe on other concerns. But we really want part of sending your son to high school is for them to, or daughter, is for them to go and mature and start to be able to handle some of these problems in the beginning on their own. Coming to see that coach, which is, as a freshman or sophomore, very difficult and intimidating. But that's how you grow. That's how you grow, is through those uncomfortable moments. But that's what we want first and foremost. We want to talk to the young kids.
Gentlemen, that is our time. I'm going to give you something to think about that is completely unfair to do. I think on our next episode, let's get into coaching your own child. And let's get into college recruiting.
Let's do it.
Let's get into that. You said it one time, you're a quote kind of person. I'd like to offer our first quote.
Okay.
And it matters to me because here we are. And Lao Tzu said, for the raindrop, joy is entering the river. And today I entered the river by being a part of this with you guys. Bigger than what I can do on my own. You and I talked a couple years ago. Now this is bigger than that. And for the raindrop, joy is entering into the river. We're a bigger force when that raindrop goes into the river. That's in Phil Jackson's book, Sacred Hoops. I don't just study Lao Tzu on my own.
I love that quote.
So that's where I got that from. I have a copy of that book if you want it. It's an easy read. I used to make my teams read it before each season. So I, over the years, have had probably 100 copies of that book. Try to find them on Amazon for like $3 used or something. But gentlemen, I thank you for being here. This was awesome. This was great. I know that we each think we could be here for another 2 hours and not run out of content, but the people want something to hear in the next episode. For those who are listening, we thank you for being here. We have to thank our sponsors, the Tamara Cusick team and Dynamic DJ Entertainment. They were the first 2 on board, and they support what we do here, so we appreciate that. Coach Turner, the Gonzaga Purple Eagles basketball program. Coach O'Neill, the Gonzaga Purple Eagles lacrosse program. If you guys have any questions or you'd like to submit content to the show, we would like you to go to turneroneillpodcast.com, click the submit an idea button. We'd like to hear from you. The coaches will look it over. We don't make promises as to what we'll use on the show, but if we can get some energy behind it, we'll introduce it on the show. Gentlemen, this is your show as well. Talk to me.
Go ahead, Coach.
Oh man, I don't know. I'm excited. I'm grateful for this opportunity. You know, I'm very thankful to Casey as a friend for reaching out to me a couple weeks ago, and we want to thank you guys, Curtis and Chrissy, Paula, for allowing us to be here in your space to create a platform where we can talk about everything from sports to life to our careers, whatever we're going to bring to this platform. It can't be done without a group of people, and I just want to say to you guys, thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for helping us do this.
Amen.
I don't think we spoke to that enough. This will be more than about sports. It will be more than about sports. Coach O'Neill.
I just think back to driving back, doing the second round of college visits with my son, and thinking about doing Steve's just face and name popped up in my head about doing this, and never would I have imagined that in 2 weeks from that moment that we'd be right here with you all, who are unbelievable. This is the starting five right here, right? Yes, am I right?
Can I be power forward?
I thought you're three. Aren't you three? Kind of a.
I'm a swing man.
Yeah. Right.
Wow, I'm not. To me, the swing man has to be the most athletic one on the court, and that's not me. So,
but I feel blessed. I feel grateful, and that quote was beautiful. And it was just raining, and I could see the drops coming down the window right now. So here we go.
The brand new windows. We outfitted this studio. Brand new windows, shades, paint. Did you notice the paint?
Yes.
We did a few things here. Gentlemen, thank you. Thanks to the Tamara Cusick team, Dynamic DJ Entertainment, the folks who are going to listen to this podcast now and in the future. We're very thankful. DJ Chrissy, happy birthday once again.
Yes, happy birthday.
On your 25th birthday, we'll call it. We'll say that.
25. That was a good year.
Yes, or 25 plus tax, but we won't say how much tax. But thanks, everybody. We love doing this show. We're going to continue to bring it to you. We want to thank our sponsors. And if you're interested in sponsorship, join the team. Take a TO with Turner and O'Neill. We'll come to you each week. I'm Curtis Cross. I'm your host. Coach O'Neill, you have something?
No, just saying, have a great week, everybody.
All right, we'll see you next time, folks.
Take a TO with coaches Turner and O'Neill is brought to you by the Tamara Cusick team and Dynamic DJ Entertainment. Partnership opportunities are available. Questions and submissions to the podcast can be submitted by going to www.turneroneillpodcast.com. All submissions will be reviewed for content and may or may not be included in a future podcast. When submitting content, you agree to the use of your likeness and social media identity, should we choose to include your content. No compensation is offered for submitted content. Where possible, credit will be given for creative content. Take a TO with coaches Turner and O'Neill is produced by Curtis Cross and engineered by DJ Chrissy. You may contact us on social media at Turner O'Neill Podcast or by visiting www.turneroneillpodcast.com. You may also email the show at turneroneillpodcast@gmail.com.